Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Todd Salovey. You may be used to me doing Talkin' Theater with Todd on Thursday previews or first previews of every show at the Rep. But since we're virtual and in a pause now before we roll out our fall season, we're doing it virtually here over Instagram Live. My guest today is Yale Strom. Yale Strom, in 1993, when I directed the Divic San Diego Rep, I knew that I wanted to have some live klezmer music in it. I began to ask around, who should I speak to? Everybody said, you've got to talk to this guy, Yale Strom. I found him and we connected. He actually composed and performed the music for that production, as well as Mila Wingard Rosen, who performed as well. And Mark Janishovsky performed in that show too. And he and I have worked together many, many times since then. He performs almost every year in the Lipinski Family San Diego Jewish Arts Festival. And in fact, he'll be performing in several arts festival performances this year. I want to just invite into the conversation Yale Strom. Yale, how are you doing? How's your family?
We're fine. Thank you, Todd. In all, in consideration, I have nothing to complain about. I have friends who are literally on the front lines who are health workers or, EMT workers. So my heart and feelings go out to them, but we're doing well. Thank you so much for asking, and a pleasure to meet you again and everybody else who's listening.
Well, I think people might be interested with your Jewish background, your musical background. I'm sure every year you have a very interesting Passover Seder. We just finished the holiday of Passover a few weeks ago, and I know that I'm curious, well, what'd you do? Your wife Elizabeth is the lead singer in your band. Your daughter Tallulah, I'm sure, was with you. And what'd you guys do for Seder?
So what we did is the second night, the first night we had something really small, basically a trio and a couple friends via Zoom. But the second night we were able to, with the help of I have a cousin Yale, interesting enough. So the two Yales, me, my cousin Yale Goldust, Yale Squared, we did a Zoom thing. So I had some of my siblings and his family and his parents and my father, Elizabeth, my daughter Tulu and I. And I actually took a picture of it and posted it on social media. And so, we did quite a bit of the portion of the Haggadah, sang songs. I felt that what was most important is the singing part. I mean, we did some of the prayers, but really what brought the spirit up and what people really wanted to do was singing. And then everyone, of course, ate. But we didn't turn it off. We saw them eating. We were eating. We're discussing what the charosis was like, their marmor and their main dish, and just making jokes and so forth, and just small talk. And then we finished it. So, never in my life I thought I would do a Seder, via the internet. Something so bizarre to me. But I was glad to do it. I first thought, why should I do it? But you know what? It really, it fed the soul. It actually, afterwards, Elizabeth and I, even Tallulah, we said, it wasn't like having them here, of course, but it really was worthwhile to do it. The one thing that we said to ourselves as we cleaned up and went upstairs for the evening, Elizabeth and I said, well, the cleanup was a lot easier. Instead of having 25 people, it was 3. I didn't have the matzah crumbs everywhere, spilled wine. So the cleanup was a lot easier.
Well, thank you for sharing what you did. I'm sure that the themes of liberation and what freedom mean were particularly relevant this year for you. I'm sure they were for a lot of us too. One of the plays that we're doing in the Jewish Arts Festival this year, we haven't fully announced how we're doing the J-Fest. Generally Jewish Arts Festival starts in May and runs through early July. And of course, this year we've been thinking, what do we do? Some things will be virtual, some things will be live. And one of the things that we're going to be working on in the Jewish Arts Festival is Yale's play, The Wandering Feast. The Wandering Feast is based on a memoir that Yale did about his becoming a klezmer musician. And he did that through a trip to Eastern Europe back when no one was going to visit the Jewish communities in Eastern Europe in the mid-'80s. And I thought I'd reach out and just ask you to tell our audience, how'd you get started? What led to your being the klezmer guru of San Diego?
Well, my trajectory, I'm a San Diegan by way of Detroit. I always have to add Detroit because I'm very proud of my Detroit yifis, my Detroit background as well. So I had a couple degrees from San Diego State, very proud to say that. One in American Studies, Literature, History, emphasis, and one in Furniture Design and Art. And I was working in a furniture factory, Santee, doing some work. But anyhow, decided I was going to, I don't know, at that age, 22, 23, I felt some pressures. I should really know what I must do. I have to have my path because my father had found his path and my mother, putting external pressures on myself. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go to law
23,
school.
time to get your life started. Yeah.
Exactly right. I know. And I'm telling the opposite to Tallulah. Slow down, take it easy. Your 20s, explore. Don't settle. Travel, learn. Anyhow, so I was going to enter law school, and I thought, oh, that's good. And I like law, social, politics and law, and working with people, and et cetera, et cetera. So, so while waiting to physically actually go to the law school, there was a dance, a Klezmer dance. Now, back in 1981, the Klezmer, quote, revival was already about, 5-6 years old. And I knew about Jewish music growing up and so forth. We sang songs. We didn't, I played a few Klezmer tunes, but we did a lot of singing in the family. My dad didn't play an instrument, played the radio, he said very well. My mom played the piano. But anyhow, I went to this dance downtown in a very cool club called Sushi's, very hip club. Before downtown.
They used to do performance art at Sushi.
That's right, exactly. I mean, it was hip before hip was hip, right? Before the gas lamp and everything. And so the big Jewish band I had heard about, with many musicians from UCSD, led by the wonderful Ron Raboy, etc. They were playing there, and they had been around for about a year. And so I said, wow, let's go check it out. I went with my good buddy, Brian Blue, who I did my very first book with, The Last Jews of Eastern Europe. Anyhow, went down there, and, I recognized melodies, new arrangements. But when I really loved it, there was obviously a Jewish crowd, but many non-Jews. It wasn't in a Jewish edifice, not a synagogue. It wasn't for a bar mitzvah. It was just at a club. And I got this idea. I said, wow, it would be so much fun to join them, for whatever reason, to maybe make a little extra money before I enter law school in the fall, and just to experience this. So during the intermission, I went up to Ron, and he basically said, well, whatever, we'll see. I'm focusing, kid, on the next half of the concert. So, it didn't seem very positive at the moment. Basically went home, 3 a.m., got home, and a light bulb went off. And basically, they say, if you can't beat him, join him. No, my saying was, if you can't beat him, form your own. And literally that day, I decided I was going to form my own band, Klezmer band. But I thought, okay, got to be a little different. And so I said, okay, he was using tunes from this particular book and a few tunes that he had transcribed from some old 78s. And I thought, perhaps there's still melodies and stories that no one has ever written down, never published, never recorded. And where might they be? Maybe in Eastern Europe. And of course, that was, as you said, that was the East Bloc era. Not a lot of tourists, let alone Jewish tourists. And I bought a one-way ticket and went to go find music to form a band. And thus it took me on this really, really wandering trajectory on this path that many people who are listening maybe know me of, how we've met. And it opened so many doors, and I'm so grateful for not having been accepted into the band that night. When I got home after it, which was going to be a few months, but ended up being a year, Ron he graciously said, yeah, we want you in the band. And I had wonderful memories, met friends that are still close to in the band, and formed my own band. And today I still probably have hot pastrami.
Yeah, I wonder if you can describe some of the tunes that you discovered on that trip and maybe play something for us.
Yes, I have a tune here. Yes, here's a tune that I found in the archives, interestingly enough, in Bucharest, in this old music book. And I remember asking the lady, I said, now when I think about it, how silly of me, but I said, can I Xerox this? And she looked at me and she's, Xerox, it's broken, whatever. I said, oh, okay. But she said, you can come here every day. This is your table and you can copy by hand as much as you want. And literally for a week, I copied 30 pieces by hand. So this piece, and what's interesting is I did hear some Gypsy Roma musicians some months later playing a version of the melody. So which will bring me to, another aspect of the story. But here, I'll just play. This is called With the Fiddle, Meat and Fiddle. It was like one of the first tunes Pastrami played.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow, that's just wonderful. Okay, Yale, the music speaks for itself. And it really doesn't sound like any other kind of music, but I know that you also teach music and teach klezmer music. How would you describe is the specific musicality of klezmer music?
Well, I guess to keep it, the most simple way to describe it is klezmer music. What the klezmer's school, the klezmer's conservatory, was the shul, was the synagogue. The violin that we say the Jewish instrument, or the clarinet. People, oh, I gotta have clarinet or violin. But truly, the first instrument of the Jews, and even of the klezmer musicians, starting way back of the 14th, 1500s, was the voice. And so the ornamentation that the chazan, the cantor, or just the Baal Tefillah, just the one who leads the prayers, they would, those who had the control and were, more than just an amateur, when they would break a note, we call it krecht, when they would, a kneich, a pinch, break off a note, when they would slide, when it sounded like a little mournful, little bit of catch in their throat. These aspects of the music, the musician who went to the shul, he went to the shul. There was only one kind of Judaism then. It was just Judaism, Orthodox, from the Chumash, from the Bible. And they said, wow, that melody touches my soul. How do I transfer what the chazan is doing to my instrument? And that's literally how those ornamentations came to be used on the violin.
Oh, that's so interesting. So Yo, you're also a composer, and you've created many original klezmer tunes. You've also worked with the Roma and many different forms of music through Eastern Europe. How has Jewish music, Roma music influenced your own composition? maybe show us and play us something and talk about the influences that are in it throughout the cultures of Eastern Europe.
Okay, well, the Roma, the Gypsies, some know them as, but it's better to use the word Roma, or in Yiddish we'd say the Zigeuner. In certain areas like Transylvania, the Carpathian Mountains, and that's the region Elie Wiesel came from. Hasidus, as you're saying, is the philosophy of Hasidism comes from the Carpathian Mountains. So that's in Western Romania, Eastern Hungary, but then all the way across Romania to Bessarabia, which is today Moldavia, Moldava, that region. So you had many Roma who played in Jewish bands, as well as many Jews who played in Roma bands. You had Roma who spoke Yiddish, and you had Jews who spoke Romani. And one of the things about music, as you know, as an artist, as a wonderful playwright and director, the arts cut across all cultures, all religions, all ethnicities, because there's something about that common need to find that link that is the human condition in the arts. And so the musicians didn't get hang up, oh, you're Jewish, I shouldn't play with you. Oh, you're Roma, I shouldn't play with you. No, come on. Mishigas, that's craziness. We're going to play together. And that's why I often say, people might say right now, us artists are part of the essential, of businesses. The truth is we're very essential, I think, in this world of COVID-19, because it helps us take our mind other places than only focusing on some of the dire straits that we're dealing with. So anyhow, I was listening to that.
Absolutely, yeah. Couldn't agree more.
And so I learned, and they were happy to see me. And of course, many Roma were leery of the non-Jew, or the non-Roma, I should say. This is a whole nother subject, but they were discriminated against, like the Jews during World War II. But as soon as I would say I was Jewish to them, even when I had the violin, the violin was a tool that immediately, but they would go like this. Can you see that?
Yeah.
They would link their pinky, say, no, Jew, Roma, together. So here's a little piece, a style that they would do in Moldavia. When they would start a tune, sometimes they would whistle, they would go some of these and play, so it sounds kind of airy. So they go. And then sometimes they would drag their bow very tightly across the string that all classical violinists would say, why are you ever doing that? So I took that style and just wrote a little ditty, little song. Actually, I put lyrics to it, but I won't sing it. My wife does that much better than I do. But it's just called The Son of Avramen in that style. So I just did that, and then it would start. Hippa! And so forth and so on. So that gives you, so that's one particular style that influenced me and other Jewish musicians playing along with their fellow Roman musicians.
Great. Hey, Yale, I wonder if you could talk about some of the shows that you have upcoming in the Jewish Arts Festival, for example, the Klezmer Summit.
Well, the Klezmer Summit, we're very excited. You excuse me, we've changed the date a few times. It's September, right now it's September 12th, is it?
It's okay, you don't have to announce a date. It'll be in the fall.
It will be, yes, in the fall. And what we plan to do, folks listening, we'll look at the guitar. We always like to have some theme along, of course, with Klezmer and Yiddish song. And we're going to look at the guitar and the role of Jewish music, folk music. So we plan to have some really fine guest guitars. One Roma gentleman himself coming from Russia, playing some beautiful, great guitar. An Israeli who I've played with before, who plays the oud, as well as the guitar jazz, as well as, of course, our own very homegrown Fred Benedetti, great classical guitars. And so we'll have them. And my goal is to actually write a short little piece for all three to show their particular styles. And then after that, we'll all join together and with the full band, Pastrami, and playing. Also, as you said, the Wandering Feast. I'm excited. This is a play that Todd and I have been working on. And it dramatizes my story, this autobiography, this trek that I took that really changed my life. And I got to meet many interesting Jewish and non-Jewish people. So it's told through my story as well as through music. And we're going to use archival photos and video that I have collected over the years, my own, to help tell that story as well. So those are two things that we're very excited. And I'm going to add, not part of the festival, but certainly something for 2021. Todd and I have been working on Chagall. And some of you might know, whatever happened to Chagall? It's okay. He's been sleeping, taking a rest. And so we're excited to start. We've worked on a new script. We're going to do some readings, etc. But hopefully in 2021, we actually workshop it to then, of course, bring it to full production at the San Diego Rep.
Oh, thanks again. Thanks a lot. So I'm Todd Salovey. This is Instagram Live Talkin Theater with San Diego Repertory Theater. I'm the Associate Artistic Director of San Diego Repertory Theater. And my guest today is Yale Strom, Klezmer musician, composer, author, filmmaker. I think you've got a film in the works. And Yale, I've read about it a bit in the Reader. And you're doing a profile of a really amazing and important center of the folk music in San Diego. Can you talk about that film, Yale?
Thank you. Yeah, it's called Cordially Yours, Lou Curtis. So Lou Curtis, for those who don't know, he's the one who created the San Diego Folk Festival that was for 20 years, a little over 20 years, San Diego State, little UCSD, eventually morphed into the Adams Avenue Roots Festival. And of course, which was going to be actually next weekend. But I guess we'll be doing it virtually. But next year we'll come back live. And anyhow, Lou was this walking repository. I say he was the Google of roots music before there was such thing as a Google. You could literally go to him and say, I heard about this blues guy in 1924. He did this recording. So, oh yes, and he'd tell you who did it, who was on the recording, the date. He just a tremendous love for roots music. You'd go to his record shop, Rare Folk Art Records, which today, must plug it, it's on El Cajon Boulevard, just across the street from the theater. Okay, now I'm forgetting what the movie house. It's the Art Center, but it's like 30th and El Cajon, and it's still there. Lou passed away a few years ago, so the story's about Lou, but it's not just about Lou, but the musicians that he influenced just by his stories and his knowledge. For example, Jack Tempchin, who wrote many big hits for the Eagles. Mojo Nixon, Allison Brown, a great bluegrass country banjoist, A.J. Croce, many, many more, Gregory Page. And so, yeah, so thank you for asking. So we're working on that film, and sometime in latter part of 2021, we look forward, for it premiering at Digital Gym. That's it. If you know where Digital Gym is a wonderful art cinema right across the street from Rare Folk Art. So if you're interested in it, and it doesn't have just American roots, it's world music. And a lot of people don't realize that the folk music scene in San Diego would not be what it is without the wonderful generosity and knowledge of the wonderful Lou Curtis.
Thanks a lot. Just to people who are watching us live, we are live, and if you have questions for Yale, please type them in and text them in, and I'll be happy to read them out to Yale. We'll be able to respond to your questions. So yeah, I think something that everybody generally wants to know is, what's it like to perform with a great singer who is also your wife? And do you guys rehearse around the supper table? What's it like to have your main contributor be your better half?
Well, first of all, I'm so lucky, just because she is my best friend, not only my wife, but really my best friend. But I never knew she had such a fine voice when I first met her, was some months later, and a beautiful contralto. Of those who've never heard her, you have to go to her website, voiceofklezmer.com, Klezmer. So it's great because she has such a great ear for harmonies, much better than I do, a great sense of rhythm. So we'll bounce off ideas. We've been doing since, of course, like everybody else, particularly musicians, we can't go to theaters now and play live or even homes. So we've been doing every Wednesday now. Next week on the 29th, it will be our 7th edition on my Facebook page called Radio Free COVID-19, the Chunda Stunde, in Yiddish means the bizarre hour, where Elizabeth plays the baritone ukulele and sings, and I back her up and play. So I couldn't be more lucky to have my best friend to be the singer in the band. And the truth is, we were a quintet before I met her, and I did some singing, and I'm an okay singer, but I'd rather sing on the violin. But when she came, it really made the band blossom, and we garnered much more attention. And the truth is why? Not just because people like to look at an attractive person on stage, but the truth is the voice speaks to everybody. Some people love the violin. Others, this is my second, third best instrument. Some people love the clarinet, the accordion, or the drums, or the bass. But most people are in love with the voice because it tells a story, right? As I was saying earlier, it's really connection to that human condition. So I'm so grateful for Elizabeth to be a part of Hop Pastrami and a part of many of the projects that I work on.
Well, that's great. We're going to sign off in a few minutes, but I just want to end today just sharing a few things about the Lipinski Family San Diego Jewish Arts Festival. We have some great programs. Comedian Elon Gold will be performing. This will be in the fall, as well as we're really, really excited that Hershey Felder is going to do a kumsitz. You might say, like, what is a kumsitz? But it's like a camp gathering, a Jewish gathering. Kumsitz, come and sit together and sing. And he'll be doing that during his run of Paris Love Story in November in the Jewish Arts Festival. Something I mentioned at the start was that Ali Viterbi, our playwright and the associate producer of the festival, her play In Every Generation, which we've done twice in Jewish Arts Festival, just got accepted and announced yesterday as the new show at Victory Gardens Theater in Chicago in October. We're always super proud when work that starts with us in the festival in San Diego goes on and is seen in other places in the country. Looks like that'll come back to San Diego also in a future rep season. But Ali is working on a new play called A Linguicide, which is about the transference of the Latino language in the Ladino language in the Jewish culture through generations. She'll be doing that in the Jewish Arts Festival. Of course, we're doing Women of Valor, and we're going to do something very special with Women of Valor this year. We would generally all get together in June in the theater, celebrate the lives of 6 extraordinary Jewish women. Well, we still want to celebrate them. But what we're likely going to do is do it virtually on 6 different nights through video and share the stories of 6 incredible Jewish women in San Diego. So I really look forward to telling you more, sharing more about the Jewish Arts Festival in the future. And again, we thank the Lipinski family for sponsoring it. And it's such an honor to work as part of San Diego Rep, doing one of the 3 cultural festivals that San Diego Rep does each year. So I just want to end the program asking Yael if you've got something enjoyable and soulful that you can play as
Sure.
program. Thank you.
Yes. All right. Well, I'll end on a Hasidic niggin from the shtetl where my grandmother came from. Hey.
Thank you.
My
Yale
pleasure, Todd.
Strom. Thank you so much. Wish your family to stay safe and healthy.
Likewise.
Yes, I'm Todd Salovey, Associate Artistic Director of San Diego Repertory Theater. Every Thursday at 5:30, the Rep is doing Talkin Theater on Instagram. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Todd. All best to you. Thank you.